Hey guys, this is Tucker at MACkiteboarding, and today I have a really hot overview and review for you. Buckle up if you're into foiling. This one is going to be a big deal, I think, for a lot of riders. Probably one of the most disruptive products in our industry this year, if not within the past couple of years. What I'm bringing to you today is the long-awaited Project Cedrus aluminum forged evolution model mast here, and we're going to get into it, tell you all the dirty details, tell you about my long-term test on this one. I've had this prototype now for a few months, ridden I don't even know how many hours on it, as many as I possibly can when I didn't have to ride something else. So stand by if you're interested in foils at all. Even if you're not after a new mast, put this one in the back pocket, because when you do buy one, for a lot of riders, this forged Cedrus should be in your top choices. All right, so what do we have here? Well, Project Cedrus as a brand has been around for a long time now. We've sold them here at the shop for a long time. I can remember back when Kyle, the founder and designer, reached out to me, told me about the concept he had in mind, and got me some of those first demos. And right from the go, you could tell Kyle is really passionate about foil sports, about design. The dude is a world-class engineer and has worked with some brands like Apple and many others in different aspects of design. So we're really lucky to have his passion in our industry, even though our industry may not warrant his level of design work and skill all the time. So maybe we underappreciate him, but really stoked to say that after a few iterations of the Cedrus mast, the concept is still intact. That is a super stiff, lightweight, durable, and universal mast option, so that you only ever need to buy one mast, or one size mast, I should say, no matter what. And that's been a really proven concept, I think, through the years. The products have gotten better, more polished, still made in the United States, which is amazing. There's a lot of foil companies. Most of them are producing them at, lower income countries and things like that for the cheap labor. Kyle's making even these aluminum ones by hand, and in machines as well, but they're being built in the United States, not just assembled, but built, forged in the United States. So that's a pretty cool story. No worry about extra tariff or anything on these. And anyway, so that's sort of the story behind Cedrus as a brand. The Forged Evolution model, what this is the Evolution is a series that he had for the past year and a half or so in the Carbon series. So the Evolution Surf, the Evolution Wind, and now we're adding the Evolution Aluminum Forged, or the Cedrus Forged, however you want to call it, aluminum mast. And then also, as kind of a side note to that, the Clydesdale mast, which is essentially the same mast, only it's a solid single cord thickness and how do I want to say, foil thickness through the whole thing, whereas this one, the Forged, tapers. So another innovation from Cedrus. This is the first that any of us are aware of tapered aluminum mast, production tapered aluminum mast. So what that means is the sections of the mast that take the most stress and torque, and the sections of the mast that bend the most under load, are right down here by the fuselage and right up here by the top of the mast. Those sections are a little thicker in those areas to provide extra stiffness and support and durability. And then through the middle here, the section that's passing through the most water, and passing through the air-water barrier is thinner and more tapered with a faster, more efficient, more streamlined foil section, so that you're reducing a lot of wetted surface area, you're reducing a lot of drag. The foil section, as I mentioned, is a faster foil section in those areas. So really what you get when you do this, and many carbon riders will know, you're reducing the drag. That gives you better efficiency. It gives you better top speeds, better glide efficiency. So it's just all positive things. However, usually when you taper a mast and make it thinner like that, you're also making it more flexible. You're also making it more fragile and brittle in those areas, because they're going to break down more quickly when you're bending them, especially with a material like carbon, which breaks down over time. So having that kind of double-sided taper, that hourglass sort of taper or forged aluminum shape on these, really does give you a lot of the best of both worlds. Is this going to be race level fast? No. Maybe for a really heavy guy where the stiffness is really important at those speeds, but yeah, of course, the race masts are so specific and so niche and so expensive. They're really not designed to be ridden with small foils. They break easily. They require a lot of maintenance and care. That's totally on the other side of the spectrum. What I would say about the forged Cedrus is that this is an every man's mast, every woman's mast. And for most riders out there, you could buy this as a beginner, riding massive foils, riding slow, wanting that stability in the proper size. And you could continue to progress with this mast through countless different foil wing planes, different boards, different sails, different riding styles, and still be really happy with this mast 10, 15, who knows, maybe 20 years down the line with some minimal maintenance and care. This thing is really, really rock solid durable and mega stiff. I mean, we have punished this thing. It is so solid. It is so stiff. There really isn't another mast in the industry that I could compare to this level of stiffness. There are carbon masts out there that are $2,500 that are very stiff and very sleek, but they're not as stiff as this. They might be a little sleeker, which, you know, for some people might matter a little bit, but it's also 4 times the price of this and a lot less durable. And eventually that carbon is going to fatigue in those areas where it's bending and stressing, in those mast foot areas and in the top plate sections where that carbon is being forced into a tighter bend and kink. Those areas get stretch fractures, those areas fatigue over time, and the longer you ride those masts, the less stiff they become. As I said, we've hammered on this one. The testing has been done. There is some amount of fatigue in any item, but it's not noticeable after a lot of testing, a lot of riding, and being just straight mean to this thing. Really impressed. I mean, it's something that I didn't know would necessarily be possible to reach this level of stiffness in weight, in sleekness, in durability, in price. You know, in my lifetime, just pipe dreaming about things that, like, man, I wonder what masts are going to look like in 10 years. I don't think I could have dreamt of this in a real way that I would believe could happen. So all of that to say, the guys at Cedrus have done it again. They've absolutely crushed it. And this is going to be a hugely disruptive product in the market. I think a lot of customers, a lot of us even, are frustrated by the constant leveling up of gear and the constant increase of retail prices, where it's, you know, 5% better but 20% more expensive, and next year, okay, it's 5% more better, another 20% more expensive. It gets a little ridiculous after a while. the barrier to entry to our sports become kind of unattainable for a lot of riders. So to have something that offers such tangible, practical performance and usability and longevity, in the universality of it, of course, you know, you don't forget about that, is something that's really cool. So let me just show you around the mast here. I'm kind of getting a little too much into the review, I suppose, but I'll show you kind of what's going on with this mast a second, and then we can talk some more dirty details about what I liked, didn't like, all that. So to start, we'll give you a quick look at the taper here. You can hopefully see what this does and what kind of voodoo magic they do this in production to make it happen, I don't know. But essentially it's thinner through this section, and it's a little thicker right here and right here. Another thing they've done with this aluminum that I haven't seen from any other brand, is the mast top plate is welded to the aluminum extrusion, the forged extrusion, I should say. So this doesn't come off. There's zero wiggle. It's mega durable, and there's no water. And there's no water ingress on the mast extrusion. So no water getting in. Don't need to worry about it leaking all over your car or adding any extra weight to your kit or sloshing around and feeling kind of weird. Down here at the bottom, again, it is welded shut. No water in. And what we have here is the adapter. So this is one thing that makes Cedrus really special, again, in the industry, is the universality of these masts. So no matter what foil brand you have, if it's, you know, somebody that's doing any more than a few custom foils. Anyway, so if there's any current foils in the industry, they probably have an adapter for them. You need the Evolution style adapters for these ones. So if you already have the Evolution Surf or Wind, it uses the same adapters, and they're cross compatible across the aluminum and the carbon type setups. So if you have one of those already and you're going to add another mast to the kit, you can use your same adapters. And there's, I don't know how many countless different types of these adapters, but they're constantly producing them as new brands come about, or as existing brands decide to retool their ecosystem. They build new adapters. So your mast is never going to go out of style. It's never going to get phased out and force you into buying a new mast, which is a huge thing, because there's a lot of brands changing up things. So you can see on the inside here we have two M8 bolts that lock this in, super stiff. There's also two stainless steel pins that sink into cavities, tight tolerance cavities here. So it's like having four, or I should say two M8 and like two M12 bolts into this mast. It's that stiff. It is one piece. There is no flex in this. There is no wiggle whatsoever. And the mast adapters are built to really tight tolerances. So in fact, a lot of times these fit different masts, or different fuselages, I should say, tighter and more consistently than their carbon counterparts, even though they're coming from the brand. And part of the reason for that is the tolerances on carbon and how they wear out and how they're finished. But these things don't wear down. They continue to fit tight for a really long time. So that's a pretty cool thing to check out. In terms of the mast top here, we can give you a peek. It's got drop-in slots. They're M8 style, and also has the foil drive hole there if you want to leave your mast connected to your foil drive as a neat kind of extra there. Or maybe some of you have some other ideas on how to use that extra hole. I don't know. So this is the mast. This one actually is a prototype. So it's black anodized. The production ones are actually kind of a goldish color anodized, which is really cool. It's more visible on the water. I think it's a really neat indication that, hey, I'm riding a Cedrus Forged Mast, and your buddies, you know, can pick you out on the water more easily, and they know, you know, hey, he's got one of those cool new masts. I think that's pretty neat. And the gold anodized does hold up really well. It doesn't show, you know, nicks and scratches as much as you get on the black anodized. So it stays looking new longer. So on that note, nicks, scratches, dents, I mean, this thing is a tank in terms of durability. So not really something you got to worry about too much. I mean, you can wrap this thing on a curb if you want to, and it's probably going to dent, but you can just keep riding it because it's not carbon. You don't have to really worry about, you know, cracking the structure and cracking the eggshell, so to speak, and then it's going to just break. You know, you don't need to really repair any damage. If you do happen to somehow damage it, just, you know, grind it flat, put some clear coat on it or whatever to help seal it up and prevent corrosion, and be on your way. This thing is a pretty indestructible piece of kit, and like I said, I have not been nice to it. I have not been using a cover, been chucking it in the back of my pickup truck. I've actually dropped it out once or twice out of the back of the truck onto cement, and I mean, other than a couple of little scratches, this thing looks brand new. Rides like brand new. I'm pretty shocked at what they've done with this. I've had high hopes hearing about the details from Kyle, and it's really blown my mind, and passed it to a couple of other riders that have had a lot of experience riding different foils, high-end foils, and the consistent feedback has been, I'll probably never buy another carbon mast again. I'll buy a Cedrus Forged in the size I know I like, and that'll be it. If I change foil brands, I'll change the adapter. If my foil brand changes their ecosystem and I stick with that foil brand, I'll change the adapter. Other than that, I mean, if you need a different size, you're going to probably have to buy a different mast, but they're pretty affordable too. The retail around $7.99 on these, so that's pretty shocking and awesome if we're being honest. On the subject of sizing, one thing to know about all Cedrus masts is that they're measured in terms of the actual main body of the mast. So they don't measure from the top of the top plate or the bottom of this like some manufacturers do, or some even measure to the bottom of the fuselage if it were connected. These actually measured from the top of the adapter, so, you know, minus this, to the top of the plate, or to the bottom of the plate here where it seats in. So as a rule of thumb, for most brands, you're going to add 3 to 4 centimeters of length to whatever size is posted. So as you can tell, I've got an 81 centimeter here. So on most foil sets, this is effectively, as compared to the actual brand's mast, an 84 to 85 centimeter mast. Especially as compared to a brand like Code that measures to the bottom of the fuselage to the top of the mast. You know, this is really more like an 85 centimeter, even though it's an 81 in Code language. So that's something to know. If you want to know how it compares to your existing mast, just bust out a tape measure. Measure from the bottom of the top plate to just above the fuselage where that connection is. And that's really, you know, the size that you should order in Cedrus, assuming you want the exact same size. If you want to size up or down, of course, adjust for that. So for me, this 81 is really good, if not maybe on a bit on the long side. You know, if we're talking about smaller waves or prone, this is starting to get a little bit long. But for wing foiling, for kiting, for parawinging, this is a really fantastic length for me. And what I found is that being so stiff, it feels more nimble, it feels more stable and responsive than a long mast typically would. So that's, you know, something that I have been harping on for a long time. The foil fuselage stiffness and the mast stiffness is really some of the most important details on a hydrofoil. In a lot of cases, even more important than some of the nitty-gritty details like aspect ratio, size, fuselage length, stabilizer. Those things are all really important, but if you don't have a solid base platform to start with, no matter how good the foil is, it's always going to lack that response. It's always going to lack that drive and direction that you could have gotten from a stiffer setup. For me at 190 pounds even, I definitely experience the limits of most carbon masts out there when I'm really pushing hard on them, especially now. You know, riding higher aspect foils, you need even more stiffness from the mast because there's even more leverage on it. You need even more power in your turns to make them turn the way we want. So having a stiff mast for that to start with and transfer that energy and then quickly rebound and get that feedback into your feet, you know, it's like a whole nother dimension if you haven't already experienced that on a really high quality stiff mast. Which there are others out there as well, but really nothing that are as stiff as the Cedrus Forged. Definitely nothing in this price range that's going to be even close, if we're being honest about those details, which are important to most people. So for me, this is a real everyman product. In terms of a desert island foil, it would start with this mast for me. I know it's never going to fail me. I know it's never going to lose performance in any real tangible way. I know no matter what happens with my future foil choices or my brand's future foil choices in their ecosystem, I'm not going to have to buy another mast. I can just change those adapters, be good to go, and really enjoy myself out on the water there, because the mast is the most expensive part of the whole kit generally, especially if we're talking carbon masts, you know, that are $1,200 to $2,800. So all that to say, if you're not a racer, especially if you're a heavier rider or somebody that has an allergy to really expensive products but wants a lot of performance for what you get, take a good look at this mast. As for things I don't like about the Cedrus Forged, honestly, there's not much. I would say it's not the absolute lightest mast in the world as compared to compared to carbon masts, which are really stiff. So if you're looking at like an ultra high modulus, Code High Modulus Plus, the Axis Ultra, you know, those are carbon masts. They're extremely stiff, but they're not super light. So in terms of the weight, it's within a few ounces of those, so not really a huge problem as far as I'm concerned. You don't really feel the weight because it's so central. It is super fast, super efficient. The glide efficiency is phenomenal. The pumping that you get out of this mast is crazy. You don't realize how much a stiff mast can do for your pumping efficiency until you do it. So testing this with some dock starting foils, it is perfect. Other things I don't love, as I already mentioned, it's not a race mast. If you're a racer, a serious racer I should say, this probably isn't the mast for you. It is quite quick, but it's more of a free ride, surf type mast where stiffness is paramount, where durability is important, and where price is actually a consideration. For a lot of racers it's not. Recreational racing, beer league with the guys, you could roast some people on this mast compared to most production style masts. As long as you have the proper technique, as long as you have a fast foil, this is going to take it there. I've ridden this on as small as like 550 foils, and the speed is not a problem. The cavitation is not an issue. So that's, you know, a lot to say. I think, you know, with any mast, you're going to find some things that aren't perfect, that could be maybe improved. I don't know if it's possible to make this mast as good as it is at the price it is, and also be lighter. It would have to be made of like titanium or something. You could of course make it out of carbon. If you want that, go ahead and buy a Cedrus Evolution Carbon. Still a fantastic mast. The surf has a little less cord, so it's a little looser in the water. This one's somewhere between a wind and a surf in terms of the looseness of it. Works basically for anything. Kind of a normal mast cord dimensions, so it's not going to feel extra loose or extra, you know, tracky or anything like that. It's just kind of in between. Nice do-it-all utility mast. Yeah, I would say if there's any major issue with this mast, it's that, you know, they're so good, they last so long. Cedrus might be out of business in 10 years if people keep buying these masts, but they don't need to buy anything else. So that would be a huge problem. He'd just be making adapters, I guess. So we'll still be enjoying those, but without question, these masts are going to last a really long time. Most durable mast I've found to date, stiffest mast I've found to date, and without question the highest performance to price ratio that we've seen yet in foiling. So I think that's an important thing for the everyman, everywomen, for people in the industry that are just enjoying riding and don't have 20 grand a year to spend on gear. This is going to do it. Bring up your performance, increase your universality of your system, and just allow you to enjoy your foiling without having to think about gear and how to save your every penny for the next best mast. It's been Tucker with MACkiteboarding.com. If y'all have any questions, feel free to reach out to us here at the shop. Pick up the phone, jump on our website. Live chat is usually a really great way to get us any time of the day. And you can also fire off an email or put a comment in the comment section below as well, actually, through YouTube. So you'll be set to go there. Excited to get you guys on some of these masts. Really excited to see some high performance setups going out the door without a really big price tag, because I think everybody can really appreciate that. And watch these things out on the water, having some fun. Definitely more smiles per mile than most other gear out there. So we'll see you out there on the water.